confirmed this morning. James Lowe is out, and it looks like Jordan Larmour is going to come straight back in. That's what Leo Cullen has been talking about. James Tracy is with us. We could talk about last weekend, but really this weekend is all that matters from Leinster's perspective. That's going to be a footnote in history no matter what happens. So unless you have anything you really want to talk about last weekend?
Not a lot to talk about in terms of that. I don't know. It's a very good lesson for a lot of the younger guys. I think the step up from kind of, whether it be the club and A-level rugby to playing against like proper seasoned men. You learn quite a lot. And I think a big lesson for a lot of the young guys is when you're playing at the lower level, you can kind of stay within your own head and you can just play what's in front of you, but you kind of have to be a step ahead at the next level. I think that showed time after time when, your job isn't always done. So I'll give you a small example. There was a line out kind of in and around the turning point of the game, in and around, I think it was about 29 minutes, and, Leinster take the ball at the front, but the second row, long hair guy, can't think of his name.
For Leinster?
Norday, is it?
No.
Anyway, flies through the back of the line out and attacks Nick McCarthy. And there's an example of not understanding that, you win the ball at the front. If you're at the back of the line out, your job then transfers from, okay, you're not lifting anymore. You now have to block the guys coming through just so your 9 can pass the ball and you exit in your terms, while lack of experience, you switch off for a second. An experienced second row flies through on the scrum half, they deal with it okay and they exit, but it's not on their terms. And that was kind of the story of the day. It was like
kind of a relief that my tiny part of the job is done. You're breathing out, you're relaxing.
You're taking that mental breather and that's it. But
to go over there to play like in that kind of, I guess, probably heat as well against, it's a new experience for them. It probably, there is a learning there for them. It's like, maybe it's not as easy as I thought kind of at this stage, like, and you get a hammer and you rethink.
Yeah. Like the South Africans are just very, very big, abrasive men, and they're very clever in how they play as well. I watched that game back and they were very tactical in how they attacked and took advantage of the lack of street smarts. And you only learn those street smarts by unfortunately going through painful days like that, and you learn more from those days than you do from the wins, unfortunately, for a lot of those guys.
The press conference, Leo Cullen's press conference, is interesting because it's like, I imagine they're generally fairly low-key events, and he's bristling, he's taken umbrage at the suggestion that they're buying success. What did you make of it?
That narrative is mad, the buying success. All of the guys who are now well paid have earned that through coming up through the ranks, and yes, there is a lot of central contracts in Leinster, but there wasn't at one point. They've earned those contracts, and that whole "we bought the success" is a cop-out narrative, for the team that Leo's built over a long time, and everyone is quick to forget the state we were in back then, and we were nowhere near winning anything, and we couldn't keep up. The narrative was that the French teams were buying success, and you had that amazing Toulon team that
Johnny Wilkinson.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a dream team, and there was nothing in sight for any other team that you could possibly compete with these guys. So I think it's a bit of a cop out in my opinion, to kind of come at the success, and I say success, we still haven't won enough European Cups for our liking in how dominant we've been in the last few years, and I think that'll be a big driver for this group. But again, they won't, it's all external noise to them, but I'm allowed to get pissed off and say it's not fair for the hard work that goes on that they're saying they've bought the success.
It's also totally open to the English RFU and the French RFU to have central contracts, but they've decided not to do that, and so therefore it's not comparing apples with apples.
Exactly.
Not the same.
Yeah, and I think they've just done a really good job at keeping quality players, and none of them really. Like, you have the likes of James Lowe, who would have been someone who came over, where, you could somehow spin an argument there. But again, he wasn't. You wouldn't have foreseen the player he's become. He was a very talented winger, but he's become, like one of the best wingers in the world. But again, it's not like he was who he is now when he was brought over by Leinster. They've built up the team they have, and in fairness, I think all the provinces have done quite well with the foreign player signings, and like, it's a testament to the job that goes on between the provinces and the IRFU.
It's also interesting, we haven't touched on the coaching side of this just yet, but Ron O'Gara was speculating about Goodman perhaps being part of the new New Zealand coaching structure. That would be a bit of a loss, but they've obviously replaced Stuart Lancaster with the titular head coach of South Africa. It kind of shows the standing in World Rugby at the moment, where you're getting an international head coach, granted, who is second in command, it seems like, to Razzie, to come. So that's a good sign. Is he a cultural fit? Is it obvious that South African rugby can work at Leinster, or is that something that they think is going to be complementary? Is there any concerns about that from a stylistic perspective?
I wouldn't say concerns. I'd say it's definitely going to be new, which is good. From the point of view of getting a fresh voice, fresh outlook on the game, I think that can only be a good thing. Fairness, like, you look at how successful South Africa have been, and they definitely, we've discussed that maybe, sometimes aren't the prettiest to watch, but my God, are they effective? And why not get someone from, inside that camp who's been leading that, like, one of the best parts of their game, to hopefully bring that over to Leinster and strengthen up our defence and make us one of the best defences in the world. We've already a good defence, but it can only be a good thing, in my opinion, but, like, time will tell.
And the Goodman thing, like, I don't know enough about the intricacies of attacking play. I know Lancaster would have been involved in a lot of it too. So would that be a significant loss? Would they be looking to replace him with somebody of similar standard if he was to go?
Yeah, is it rumour?
No, it's not confirmed. Ron O'Gara was the one who was talking about it at the weekend, saying, it hasn't been confirmed, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised if he was part of the new New Zealand coaching ticket, and it seems to make sense.
Yeah, I suppose. I'd have to, unless it was actually legit and Rogers wasn't. He loves a few mind games. But yeah, no, he's a massive. I have a lot of respect for him. I got my first cap with Goody back in the day, and he got his the week before, and he came full circle. I couldn't believe it had been 10 years, and it's amazing. Just again learning from different environments and what he brought in, and he'd have a theme for every week, and it was just a different way of doing it. And I talked about
to keep you fresh.
Fresh in the mind. Fresh in the mind, and I have like a focus for that week, and one that really kind of stuck with me, and it's on the point of that the young guys would have learned about, like, a pit stop, and how there's 20 people who might only be changing the bolt in a tyre, but if they don't do their job, then it doesn't work. Everyone is affected by that one person not doing their job, and little things like that, and just instead of just going through the same, these are the plays, this is the whatever. It was a different, fresh outlook on it, and he had a different way of doing a lot of things. I think he's been an unbelievable addition, and before he went away anyway, he would have been a very liked guy. So you're coming from, that's a good place to start, is to be liked. Not necessarily important. It's okay not to be liked, but he's an absolute legend, and he's very right. It's funny, very good way of looking at the game.
That's not just, I have a really good idea about attacking shape this week, which is going to help us win the game, or
he has that too.
That's what I was going to say.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a much more full picture, which would suggest he's very important.
Yes, I would say anyone in that coaching staff right now is very important, just because of the caliber of what you have. Like, you've Robin McBride, who's he was coming from the Lions and from Wales. He's incredible. Again, he was a different way of playing the game and a different way of doing things.
How do they make them all fit?
All the players,
all of the different like ideas
Right,
and
yeah.
do you know what I mean? How do they all
cohesively?
Yeah.
Well, they're all in their own lane, you know. Like,
Right.
yeah, you've different ways of doing things, but you have your team meeting, and then you break up into your you know, you have your forwards, you have your backs, you know, and then you have your attack and your like defense, you know. So they're all kind of like separate entities, you know, and everyone has their own area that they're, you know, an expert in, and they get to take control of that.
Obviously the position groups have their conversations about, you know, the specific elements of the game, but at some point when you're talking attack and defence, that's a cohesive, everybody in the squad has to understand the same thing, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a moment in the game where we're going to go and we're going to attack when the ball in that unstructured environment. Is everybody in the same conversation for that? Is that like a group presentation with a PowerPoint basically?
Well, it depends. So if you're talking about open field defence, it's everyone. But if you're talking about set piece, like, you know, we're not going to be talking about how the backs defend off a scrum, but we, you know, it's important for say me and the back rows to understand the effect of what we're doing has on the backs.
So if you can go a specific direction, it gives everybody more or less time.
Exactly, yeah. And then like one thing that I learned in my career was to sit in on, you know, usually whoever does the line out defence comes up with the line out defence plan, has quite a knock on effect if you're not involved in it, because, you know, if you're trying to steal the ball all the time, it puts it on a team you're playing against has really good attack into the seam that I talked about in between the backs and the thing and the line out. You're snookered if you've gone chasing the ball up the front. They've won it anyway, and you're now on your own with no one around you, and you've like wingers and like scrum, you know, with likes of DuPont and like flooding into your channel. You're screwed. So you need to make sure that the line-out plan is aligned with the team you're playing against and not just this part of the game. Yeah. So like you figure out like the meetings you have to be in and the meetings you're not in, because a lot of them, well, not a lot of them, but half of them would be player-led and half of them would be coach-led, and that's encouraged from the coaches to have your own kind of unit meetings.
Right. Okay. That is really interesting, because it means that everybody then has responsibility and a deeper understanding of what the game plan is. So this week for Toulouse, for example, you were talking about, was it one of the Toulouse players talking about what they've learned? Richie Arnold, talking about what they've learned from the semi-final last year: win the collision, strong set piece, and just defence. But obviously that's not going to be enough.
Yeah, I thought it interesting, and the difference in the kind of like the French way of playing rugby versus you know, Ireland would think their way through a game as well as physicality, all of the nuts and bolts of a game, but also, you know, we're trying to evolve every week and we're thinking our way through the game. And I feel maybe, you know, that's a turning point for them in terms of, you know, they're like, okay, well, you know, definition of insanity, try the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. You know, they've had a few losses against us in the Aviva, and they're like, you know, okay, what do we need to do here? We're trying the same thing. It's not working. You know, just backing our talent and our flair.
Yeah.
What deeper? How much deeper do we need to look into this? So interesting take. It'll be more interesting to see how they action it. You know, and like, if you look at lineouts, you know, you can't defend everywhere, and if you try to defend everywhere, you're defending nowhere, because you just get pulled around and you win it. And you'll notice a lot of teams will let the other team win it at the front, because if you let them win at the front, at least you know you can have a plan.
Yeah.
So cause you're like, we're giving them the front, we have a plan, but you could also come up with moves of, okay, we know they're going to give us the front. Okay, what can we do to manipulate that?
That's where you see the short line.
Exactly, yeah. And also you see, you know, I talked about in the Ireland game where they had a maul, they got it moving forward, and then they crossfield kicked because they had everyone sucked in. Or like, if you can get the maul moving forward at the front, all of a sudden you have the whole pitch to attack against for the backs, but you have to commit the forwards by getting the maul moving forward. So there's ways around everything, but it's a game of chess in seeing what will they come up with to try pressure Leinster. You've all the different kind of matchups. It's gonna be a great game.
It does have the potential to be a really great game. It does have also the potential for Leinster to lose. Like, this is, according to the bookmakers, it's not really
7-point game. Yeah. Where are the vulnerabilities? Where will Toulouse say, okay, we can actually hurt them here?
Well, I think any great game, what makes it great is both teams can lose. I think, like, you know, going in assuming we're going to win would be incredibly dangerous, especially against like the players they have, like some of the best players in the world. So, you know, it's not going to be in their heads that, oh, we might lose this. It's like, we don't play well, we're definitely going to lose this. So where can they lose? Yeah, you know, look at that French-Ireland game in the Aviva, like one of the best games, you know, probably of the year, probably in a long time. And it was just a slugfest. And I think, like, that's what I'd love to see, is an absolute slugfest of, like, two teams, all-out attack, you know, and at the same time trying to manipulate each other with their defence in certain ways, going after each other at set piece. I don't want to be too general here. Scrum, I feel like they will probably try target that. Not that it's a weakness, but I feel like they might try target it in past kind of big French games. It seems to be a way for them to get access. That's very traditional talking, but you know, you tend to go back in the big cup games. You tend to go back to sorts. They've, you know, Arnold has said about, you know, been clever in how they defend off line out and open phase. We'll see if they've come up with a plan to deal with Ireland's phase play attack. I would be confident to think that they are oversimplifying how many variations that we'd be able to play off of the phase attack. But again, that's a subtle bit of confidence that I'd have that they're thinking it's a lot simpler than it is. There's probably more options.
To people. So in terms of the variations that we can have off phase attack, it means that we can do multiple different things no matter what we see. Yeah,
so when you have a forward running to the line and he's a guy either side of him, and you have the out half in behind, he's four options there. He can carry the ball, he can pass it inside to the guy. If the inside defender comes to do a double hit, he'll dump it inside and make a line break. If the outside guy comes in, he'll give it to the outside forward. And if this guy bites in, he'll play it out the back to the 10, and then the next four guys in the defence are screwed. You know, a lot of teams can look at that, and if you don't drill it properly and do it for long enough, your only options might be carry or play it out the back to the out half, and I fear that not fear, but like if you think that's all that there is to it, you know, you're going to get yourself in a bit of trouble. But listen, there's plenty of variations and options off of rucks and you know, attacking kicks that I think both teams will have, and I just hope that the really it's dry days, like the really talented guys can play and put on a show.
Leinster don't want it to be they don't want it to be unstructured though, because if it is, Dupont just comes into his own. Is that?
No, I would say, like,
you want it to be a slugfest.
Yeah, there's something about like being in a game like that where it's incredibly good to play, even though, you know, you're playing with fire in terms of like the likes of Pont and Tamac and all. But like,
that's why you were born to play.
Yeah, exactly. I said, like, my favourite weeks when I was playing was prepping for weeks like this, because you had to be so mentally switched on, because you were playing against such talent, as well as all the normal stuff you have to prep for your week of knowing all your roles and all the different bits. And bloody remembering to catch and to do all the like simple things, but it's just never switching off for a second with those kind of talented guys, because they can make something out of absolutely nothing. And I think there's a real satisfaction out of winning those sorts of games. You don't want to have it easy.
And this is someone just coming from, like, I'm in and out of rugby. The other three provinces with Leinster's dominance, does everyone in Ireland want Leinster to win this game? No. So where would the split be of the Connacht, Ulster and Munster fans on this?
Well, like, I'd be shocked if they wanted Leinster to win. Like,
so it's more of there is actually a rivalry in the sense we need to get up to Leinster's level, and we don't want them to kind of be dominant over the rest of us.
I think you'll be doing well to find one person in Limerick or Cork that is going to be shouting for Leinster.
One
ever in the history. And Galway, like Belfast, I very, very much doubt it, and that's fine. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. Yeah, and like I respect that. Like it's a tribe mentality, and I'm okay with that. You know, like it's what makes the competition when you play the derby game so good, and the hostile environment and
what are the fourth provinces in the top 7 in the URC? Is it so like if there is a rising tide lifts boats, like the standard of Irish rugby is insane at the moment, really?
Yeah. No, it is. It's good. Like, listen, as I said a couple of weeks ago, it's probably one of the best times to be an Irish rugby supporter. We're flying it, but we've won now the Grand Slam and Six Nations. Amazing, but there's bigger fish to fry for the country and for the club guys. This is the pinnacle of their year, so nothing's won yet, and unfortunately you can finish top of the league and win every game in the URC and until you get to the final, it doesn't matter really.
Speaking of bigger fish to fry, right? With Sexton injured and we're uncertain about when he's going to be back or available, big opportunity for Ross Byrne just to remind everybody that there's no real debate anymore, that he has cemented himself as the heir apparent, and that's why games like this, they obviously have meaning in and of themselves, but they do have much more greater significance as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of subplots. But I feel like Ross has played in a lot of big games in the last couple of years, and they've probably gone under the radar, because they were kind of like the first knockout game, or like like even semi-finals and stuff. But I'm 100% confident that it'll be a seamless change for him to be in there, and no one's saying that he's Johnny, like he's his own player, he's his own attributes. Johnny be missed in his own way, but I feel like Ross is gonna really cause a lot of problems. Well, I'd say definitely he's definitely got better attributes. Like his crossfield kicking, I'd say is better. And I'm sure there's another couple that are escaping me now, but he's definitely he's a different, like the last day we were talking about the different attributes of the different out halves. You've Frawley and he brings something different to Harry, and it's good to have different flavours at out half, because it means you find the right fit for your team, and that's what you go with, and whatever style you want to play. But this like the last 3 years, I think Ross Byrne's really grown into that role as a leader off the pitch as well as on the pitch. And
everybody does that at their own pace, right? Because I remember talking to Lancaster at the start of his career at Leinster, and he was talking about how there was a big piece of work to be done on the young leaders who were coming through, and somebody like Gary Ringrose and even Robbie Henshaw. Like, they were quiet. They're naturally quiet, but they're not anymore. You can hear Ringrose talking, and you can see him having evolved into somebody who would be a natural captain if it was. But 3 or 4 years ago, that wasn't the case, right? And that's just how this all works. I can only imagine how difficult it is to be seemingly the number 2 out half, and then your younger brother comes along and everybody's talking about him, and then eventually you get your opportunity and you're ready for it at this stage. So it's been quite the comeback. Yeah, and I think it's been great for Irish rugby that we've gotten. Leinster and Irish rugby, that we've gotten so many.
Leinster now, isn't it?
Pardon?
Leinster and Irish rugby is the same thing.
That depends who you're talking to. Well, yeah. So I think it's been great for everyone that they've gotten the opportunities that they have. It's given Ross time to mature as a player, as a person, off the field as well, because that matters, and time in the saddle. Do you know what? And sometimes it's okay to be written off, because it lights a fire in you, of proving everyone wrong. And now I'm speaking for him here, but I know I'd be using that as motivation. And
was he ever written off though, or was it just like?
I think so. Yeah. Where's he going to go? Could he end up at Ulster? Like the like Harry Byrne was effectively anointed as the successor, and he's like, well, hang on, I've literally played like 200 games.
And it was Joey. Then it was Harry, and and then it was like, was Frawley for a brief while, and then Crowley. It's been a long time of kind of like looking for everyone else but him, and I'm sure he's using that as fuel. He's never said it out loud,
but it's probably in his head.
But
he's your competitor.
You put yourself in his shoes. What would you be thinking? You'd be exactly the same. You're a competitor, and like you got to use that fuel for something good. You go 2 ways with it. It either beats you up or you use it as fuel. And like looking at how far he's come now, he has to be using that as fuel.
What an opportunity that we have.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you look at the likes of Joey Carberry now, like that's the sort of fuel now he needs to use. Where he was in the opposition, but now it's all of a sudden it's an opportunity for him now to prove everyone wrong. And that's the way you kind of have to look at the setbacks.
Luke Fitzgerald saying that he might be better focusing as a fullback for the rest of his career. Have you any thoughts on that? Or
like he was a like an unbelievable fullback when I played with him last, and he's moved down to Munster, and he's been the second fiddle Irish out half to probably the best of all time, and there was never a question about him not being a good enough out half until he's a little bit of an injury run and a dip in form, so he can play either, and that's the benefit for him.
Can I just ask you about John McKee? One of the other reasons I've little sympathy with Leinster getting everything, like John McKee's from Belfast and could easily be playing for Ulster if they scouted it properly and developed him as a player. They didn't, and now here he is come off the bench. And what level is he at? How close is he to, because it seems pretty seamless at the moment, but
yeah, John's like great character, came in and like it's funny, I was that like a little annoying eager beaver of coming in, but all he wanted to do was learn. He went, when you train, we'd only ever, like, we never really do full contact too often, but you're going at about 70% and it'd be whatever, and like when you come in as that young fella, and I was this young fella for a long time,
90%,
you're always going at 90 to 100%. So he comes in and, like, especially you see him in your position, you're a little kind of runt, but I have so much respect for the work he did off the field to fast track him to where he is now, because he's so much further along than certainly I was at his age, but than he would be if he didn't put in all the work off the field, because he has the on-field attributes. He's strong, he's aggressive, he's a good game understanding, but he's a student of the game. So
it sounds like he smashed you a few times in training. You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
And after training.
Yeah. So I listened. There's plenty of them, and I have to say, back in the day, it was myself, Dan Levy and Tyg Byrne were the annoying ones, and we'd get the head poked off us every Tuesday. So, and rightly so, looking back, we didn't realise how annoying we were until
it's very important, right?
Yeah, keeping everyone sharp.
Yeah, totally. You need those characters of training, otherwise training gets stale.
Yeah.
Sorry, we almost have no time for this, but Jack Conan had a really interesting piece at the weekend where they found, I think it was assist was the description of it, when they were looking for something else in one of his imaging that he was having done. It's a fairly remarkable discovery, and his form has improved massively since, because he was tired from it. The strain and stress that you guys put your bodies through, if you stop to think about it, you'd be pretty concerned about it.
Yeah, it's it's rugby is it's a very it's a violent attritional game, but like all kind of combat sports, it's just it's good to watch the kind of gladiators go to war and all that side of things. So it's a hard game on your body and on your mind, and not easy for him. He'd been coming off the highs of that Lions tour. He's a test starter, and an unbelievable player, and it's definitely been a very hard year mentally for him, more than physically. Now, I didn't know that he was running on empty, but mentally, when you see someone come and take your jersey, and that's what Caelan did. He took it. It was his form that got it. It's not easy, especially when he was the main man months before, like not even like a year before. It was like months before. He was the best player in the British and Irish Isles for that position, and it's not an easy pill to swallow. But at least he's gotten to the root of what was holding his energy back, and he can get back now to pushing for that position.
So who plays in the back row? Baird is fit this weekend. What do you expect to happen? Looks like Baird will be fit. Looks like Van der Fleer will be fit. So suddenly they have everybody available.
Yeah. I would say they will go with Josh, at 7, obviously, Caelan 8, and probably Jack at 6, with Baird off the bench covering back row and second row.
Right.
Now, I could be wrong on that, but that's probably what I do. I think Jack gives you a good liner option. He's bulky, he's good. He's a really good 6. And then I think like keep Caelan in at number 8. You know, he's still in flying form, and hopefully Josh can kind of pick up where he left off. He's only been a short injury, so it's pretty straightforward, that ankle injury. Like it's probably the most common one in rugby, and it's like they've done it about 50 times, or not 50 times, about 100 times.
Right. Many French coming over actually for the game.
I have no idea. No idea. Yeah. And the French supporters are class. You know, like they always bring
proper colour. It's amazing this year, I thought.
Yeah, love it.
James, good stuff. Enjoy the game. Thanks a million.
Thanks, man.
James Tracy giving us his thoughts on that. Right. Don't miss all the action in Rugby Daily today in your OTB podcast network, bringing you everything you need to know about rugby. It's all in partnership with Deliveroo. Deliveroo has some great bundles and deals. So open the app, make your choice, and watch your rider come to you. Deliveroo, food, we get it.